Welcome to Leadership Hall, where we learn leadership, think leadership, talk leadership, and effecting a positive change in leadership for kingdom and global impact. We encourage you to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel as we welcome our resource person.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to this platform on leadership. Once more, I am John Neba, and in our last episode, we're looking at why we fail to raise next generational leaders. We did promise you that in this episode, we'll be looking on the process of raising next generation leaders or raising upcoming leaders. And in today's episode, we'll be building a lot on the philosophy of Paul and the philosophy of Jesus Christ when it comes to leadership. Paul in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse number 2, he told Timothy that, and the things that you've heard of me in the presence of many witnesses, the same commit you unto faithful men, unto reliable men, unto responsible men, who will be able to teach others also. You see, Paul's philosophy of leadership is that there should be continuity, and every generation should be investing in the next generational leaders. So Paul said, what you've learned from me, Timothy, you were my next generation leader. So look for your own next generation leader. Pass over what you've learned, pass over the experience, pass over the knowledge, pass over the faith, pass over the success, pass over everything you've gotten from me to your own next generation leaders, who will also look for their own next generation leaders and pass it on to them. You know, raising up next generational leaders is a matter of intentionality. It doesn't happen by accident. We don't raise leaders by accident. We must be intentional. And in this process of raising next generational leaders, the very first thing we want to say here is that we need to accept the challenge and the need to pass on the baton. We need to accept the challenge and the need to pass on the baton. You know, Jethro gave the challenge to Moses. He told Moses, what you are doing, you only wear yourself down and wear these people out. So look for people who are able to handle 50 persons, some 500, some 100, according to your abilities, and hand over this responsibility to them. So Jethro gave Moses that challenge to invest in the next generation leaders. God also gave that challenge to Moses. When Moses was complaining that the burden is too much for him, God told Moses, get 70 elders to come up with you, and I will take the spirit which is in you, and I will put it on the 70 elders. They will bear this burden with you. That was a challenge God was giving Moses, to be able to identify other leaders and work with them. What about the apostles? They saw the challenge. They saw the need for the next generation leaders. And in Acts chapter 6, Peter and the others said, it's not necessary that we neglect the ministry of the word and prayers to be serving tables. Let's look for people who can take over this responsibility from us, and we have to give ourselves to prayers and the word. Paul, the same, gave the challenge to Timothy to look for reliable people. And today, God is giving you that challenge. God is giving me that challenge. We need to accept this challenge of start pouring out ourselves to the next generational leaders. As a president, start looking for people in that nation that you can start grooming to become the next president. As a pastor, start looking for next generational pastors. As an elder, start looking for next generational elders. Start looking for next generational deacons. As a worship leader, start looking for next generational worship leaders. People who can take over the responsibility from you few years from now, few days from now, and so forth. We need to believe in others. To raise the next generation leaders, we must believe in others. We must believe in the next generation leaders. Most of the times, we fail to invest in these next generational leaders because we don't believe in them. We think that we are the only people who can do what we are doing now. And it comes from a mindset of insecurity we are not secured as leaders. We feel that if we hand over the throne, to others, we'll be labeled failures, or we won't make it again in life. Because some of us, we have tied our success to our thrones, we have tied our success to our titles, to our positions, to our office, and we feel that if we don't stay in this office, then we are not successful. No, that's uh that's a characteristic of insecurity in your leadership, in your success. You are not yet secured in your success. When you are secured in your success, when you are secured in your ministry, when you are secured in your purpose, when you are secured in your dreams for life, you will not be afraid of handing over, of passing on what you've acquired, what you've achieved, what you've built, what you've experienced, what you've known all these years. We must believe in others. Jesus Christ told the disciples, the things I do, you will do the same, and even greater things. We need to start believing that there are people under our leadership who can do what we are doing and even better. And of course, they should do better. If you lead people who cannot become better than you, then you are a failure in your leadership. If you pastor people who cannot become better pastors, if you are preaching to people who cannot become better preachers, you are teaching students who cannot become better teachers, you are leading people that cannot become better leaders, better presidents than you, then you are a failure as a president, you are a failure as a pastor, you are a failure as a director, you are a failure as a worship leader. But God will help us. So we need to start believing in others, start believing in the people who are under our leadership, who are under our influence, that they can become more influential, more profitable, more resourceful, more useful than us. The next thing we need to do in the process of raising upcoming leaders is we need to design the type of leadership or the type of leaders we want to raise. At the back of our minds, we need to start thinking, what kind of leaders do we want to raise for the next generation? Do you want to raise leaders like Saddam Hussein? Do you want to raise leaders like Adolf Hitler? Or do you want to raise leaders like King Martin Luther Jr.? Do you want to raise leaders like Nelson Mandela? Do you want to raise leaders like Abraham Lincoln? Do you want to raise leaders like Joseph, like David, like Esther? So you have to determine the kind of leaders you want to raise, the kind of pastors, the kind of worship leaders, the kind of directors, the kind of presidents, the kind of administrators that you want them to come up in the next generation. We have to determine or design the pattern of leadership we want them to have. Do we want to raise autocratic leaders? Do we want to raise bureaucratic leaders? Do we want to raise democratic leaders? Do we want to raise transactional leaders, transformational leaders, motivational leaders, servant leaders? What kind of leadership pattern do you want to raise for the upcoming generation leaders? And you must model the kind of leadership pattern, the leadership philosophy that you want the upcoming leadership to have. If you want to see transformational leaders, servant leaders in your country, in your city, in your nation, in your church, in your organization, then you have to start modeling it, and you have to start communicating that philosophy for the upcoming leaders to know the kind of leaders we are embarking on in developing. The next thing we want to talk about is we must know how to identify potential leaders. To raise leaders is not a problem, but identifying, the kind of leaders, or to identify potential leaders. To raise leaders is not a problem, but the ability to know how to identify leaders, or having the skills to identify potential leaders in order to raise, in order to develop, in order to nurture, is a big problem. So raising leaders, we need to know how to identify potential leaders. And I guarantee you, in our next episode, we'll be focusing on how to identify potential leaders. Your potential leaders already. What is the next thing you have to do? Connect with these potential leaders, build a platform and a culture for learning and growth. Connect with these potential leaders, build a platform and a culture for learning and growth. We have to build relationships with these next generation leaders. As you are thinking of the next generation leaders, to start raising and start investing in them, start by building a relationship with them, start connecting with them, build confidence in them, identify similar interests, similar passion, similar philosophies, values, or let me say it this way: identify and build similar interests, similar philosophies, similar values, similar passions, because that is a platform where real learning and growth can take place. Make them know that you believe in them. These next generation leaders, these upcoming leaders in the church, let those young people, those new leaders that you want to raise, they should know that you believe in them, you trust them, and you want to help them, you want to assist them. So make them know that you believe in them and you can help them. In that organization, let those who are working under you believe in you, that you want to help them grow. You want to help them become the next leaders in your nation. Let the young people in your nation know that you believe in them. Don't only tell them the youths of today are the leaders of tomorrow. They should see it in your leadership. They should see it in your philosophies, in your policies. They should know that you truly believe in them. How you work with them, how you build that connection with them will make them know that you want to develop them, you want to entrust leadership into their hands, and you want to grow them up into leadership. Be available and be accessible to these next generation leaders. To truly invest and raise next generation leaders, you have to be accessible. Be an accessible leader. Be an available leader. Be available for the people such that they can have access to you at any time with their needs, with their questions, with their worries, with their fears, and you are there to help them out. Also, in this culture or platform for growth, we must involve capacity building programs for these upcoming generational leaders. Create capacity building programs for your church to build up ministers, to build up leaders. You're a leader of a choir. Come up with capacity building programs for your choir members. You are a president of a nation. Come up with capacity building programs for your ministers, governors, and your officials. It's not only to tell people we are raising you up, expose them to capacity building programs, or expose them to self-improvement activities, capacity building activities. So it's not only capacity building programs, capacity building activities should also be available for these upcoming generation leaders. After building this platform and culture for learning and growth, you need to engage these potential leaders into a training process. You need to engage these potential leaders into a training process. Engage them into a training process formally or informally. And in the process of training, you start by telling them what you want them to be doing or what you want them to become. We see that in the leadership philosophy of Jesus Christ. In Matthew chapter 4, verse 19, he told the first disciples, "Come, follow me. I will make you fishers of men." Come, follow me. You know, there was a connection between Jesus and these potential leaders. He said, "Come, follow me." He built that platform for leadership development to take place. Come, follow me. But he told them what he wanted them to be doing or what he wanted them to become. He said, "As you follow me, I will make you fishers of men." So in developing upcoming generational leaders, in raising the next generation leaders, you have to cast the vision of where you want them to be, of where you are taking them to, of what you want them to be doing in that nation, in that community, in that organization, in that church, in that institution, in that sphere of leadership where you are raising or developing your next generational leaders. Demonstrate or show them what you want them to be doing and how you want them to be doing. It means you have to model, you have to teach them by acting and showing, demonstrating. It's very important. And we talk about doing it with them several times so that they can acquire diverse skills and experience. It's not just doing something with them once and you abandon that you've demonstrated already. No, You do it with them several times, repeatedly, so that they can get the skills, they can get the experiences that you want them to learn. They can get the principles. Learning is a gradual process. Learning is always a gradual process. So you have to do it repeatedly with them. Then allow them to do it so you can provide feedbacks. So the next thing we have to do is to allow them to do it and you correct. And by so doing, you must provide a platform for them to demonstrate and practice the things, the concepts, the principles, the knowledge they have been acquiring, they have been gathering in that developmental process. So we are saying that allow them to do whatsoever you want them to be doing by themselves. And by so doing, it means you have to provide a platform for these people. You can't be raising preachers without providing them a platform to preach. You can't be raising leaders without providing a platform for them to lead. You can't be raising leaders for the nation without providing platforms where they can exercise, they can practice the things they are learning. So you must provide a platform for these next generational leaders, especially in the church setting where we are raising preachers, we are raising ministers. We have to create ministry platforms, ministry opportunities for these upcoming ministers that we are raising and developing. It's very important so that they can apply the things they are learning, the concepts, the principles, and whatsoever you want them to acquire. Then let them repeat the process several times with others. Once they have learned, demonstrated, they've practiced, allow them to repeat the process with others. The next thing is also for us to delegate and entrust responsibilities to these upcoming leaders, because people grow in responsibilities. Responsibility provokes hidden abilities. You will never know the potentials of some of these leaders until we give them responsibilities, until we give them opportunities. So as somebody who is developing and raising next generation leaders, new leaders, delegate, entrust responsibilities to them, give them opportunities to make mistakes, give them opportunities to fail, because it is a learning process. It is part of learning. Give them opportunity to exercise their potentials, to exercise their talents, to exercise their skills. Entrust responsibilities to them, and you'll be shocked with the kind of abilities that these young or new leaders they have in the inside of them. So it's important in the learning process. Provide coaching and mentorship. I won't talk much on coaching and mentorship in this episode, because in the future we'll be having episodes on mentorship and coaching by the grace of God. The next thing is regularly evaluate the progress. And provide honest feedback to these new generation leaders with a positive spirit. Regularly evaluate the process. Are they making progress? Are they acquiring skills? Are they applying the skills, the knowledge, the experiences they are learning in the process of development and growth? Then you provide honest feedback with a positive spirit. It's very important for these next generation leaders. And the last thing I want to say is that release them to become independent while you remain a facilitator. In the process of raising leaders, remember, you should be more of a facilitator than a dictator. So remain a facilitator and a catalyst in their learning process. Make things easier for them in this learning process. So I believe if we apply these things alongside with others that you can learn from other platforms, we'll be able to raise the next generation leaders effectively. God bless you. Thanks for following. Remember to subscribe. If you have not subscribed before, remember to like, to share what you are learning with others, or to share this link with others so that they can also benefit what you are benefiting. God bless you. I remain your host, John Neba. I will be glad to meet you again in our next episode.
Welcome to Leadership Hall, where we learn leadership, think leadership, thought leadership, and effecting a positive change in leadership for kingdom and global impact. We encourage you to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel.